Bradley Beal is one of the best players in the NBA today, and has had a pretty successful career individually in the NBA so far. He's in his 9th year, and has already made 2 All-Star teams and an All-Rookie team. In his last few seasons, he has especially picked things up, as in the 2018-19 and the 2019-20 seasons, he averaged more than 25 points per game. However, despite those crazy numbers and all, the Wizards in those aforementioned seasons have not been too successful, as they have not won over 32 games in those 2 seasons that I mentioned before. And people thought the 2020-21 season could be a different year for the Wizards. As we know, they traded for Russell Westbrook in the offseason for John Wall. However, despite those expectations, the Wizards have not been filling them. And Bradley Beal is leading the league in scoring as of the recording of this video. And despite that, the Wizards are just not a good team, as I said before. And as you guys can tell from the title, I wanted to talk about why it's time for the Washington Wizards to trade Bradley Beal and just move on and blow things up. But before we do get started, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that like button, as it really helps out the channel and it shows your support for this content. If you guys are new and enjoy the videos on here, make sure to subscribe so you do not miss out on any new videos. I am also trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and it would mean a lot to me if we could reach that goal, as these videos take a lot of hard work to make, and I will react to my first 2 videos ever once we hit 1K as a special. So if you guys want to see that and enjoy the content on here, make sure to subscribe. But with that being said, let's get started with today's video. First, let's do a brief summary of how we kind of got here. Bradley Beal was drafted by the Washington Wizards in the 2012 NBA draft, and he had a pretty good first 4 years, averaging over 15 points per game in each season, and the Wizards would make the playoffs in the 2014-15 season. In the 2016-17 season, he'd take his game to another level, as that would be his first season averaging over 20 points per game. The Wizards in that season would also take the Boston Celtics to 7 games in the second round, just coming 1 game shy of the Eastern Conference Finals to meet up against LeBron James' Cavaliers at the time. People thought in the 2017-18 season that they could, just do some big things. However, John Wall was injured for a good portion of that season, and because of that, the Wizards would regress to the 8th seed, and they would lose in the first round to the Toronto Raptors. However, on the bright side for Bradley Beal, he did make his first All-Star team, so that's a positive, I guess. And in the 2018-19 season, John Wall would suffer an Achilles injury, sidelining him for the majority of that season. And because of that, Bradley Beal had to essentially carry that team for most of the year. And that did not go well, as Washington would miss the playoffs entirely. The 2019-20 season would be more of the same, as John Wall would not play any of that season due to that aforementioned Achilles injury, and Bradley Beal would have another amazing season. But the Wizards, as we know, would suck and would not make the playoffs. In the 2020 offseason, people thought the Wizards, as we all know, could definitely make the playoffs with John Wall and Bradley Beal, or so we thought John Wall, as they would trade for Russell Westbrook, and people thought this should definitely make them a playoff team, as John Wall, as we know, was coming off a known to be a historically bad injury, and Russell Westbrook, as we know, was still one of the best point guards in the NBA, so this should definitely make them a playoff team, as we thought. However, right now that has not been the case so far. Russell Westbrook, one reason why people thought that he could be a really big help to this team, and one reason why people thought him or John Wall could be a help, was because people thought they could take the load off of Bradley Beal when it came to the shot creation department. But that has not exactly been the case, as Russell Westbrook has just been pretty bad so far, as he's averaging just 21 points per game, 9.5 assists per game, 9 rebounds per game, shooting 41% from the field, and it's just not been good when it came to the shot creation department. And because of that, Bradley Beal has essentially had to do the same thing he did in the 2018-19 season and in the 2019-20 season, which is basically carry the shot creation. Now, Russell has started to pick things up recently, but Bradley Beal, as we know, just has had to really just carry that shot creation department this entire season. And when we take a look at the biggest issues with the Wizards this season, it has easily been the defense. Russell Westbrook definitely should take some blame, as he has not exactly been playing well, and Scott Brooks. Now, Russell Westbrook is slowly improving, and he's not all of the problem. While his bad play does not exactly help, he's not all of the entire problem. But their defense is awful. I mean, like Bradley Beal said they couldn't guard a parked car, and I mean, is he wrong? He is not wrong at all. Right now, the Wizards are 29th out of 30. Well, they are 29th in terms of defensive rating, only ahead of the Sacramento Kings. Washington is also dead last in the league when it comes to opponents' points per game, as they allow 122 points per game. And this has been a big reason why, when Bradley Beal drops something like 48 points, they still typically lose. And of course, that has been a big problem throughout the season in general. They didn't do anything to improve their defense this past season, which really just does not help Washington at all, especially when in the 2018-19 season, they dealt away some critical key defenders like Otto Porter Jr. and Kelly Oubre. And Scott Brooks is the final issue I really just want to talk about. And Scott Brooks, let me just tell you, he is terrible. I mean, the guy cannot come up with a legit offensive system, and this was his defensive game plan against the Nets when it came to guarding Kevin Durant. Just take a look.
Bruh.
Anyways, now that we kind of did a brief summary of how we got here, maybe it was not that brief, but now that we've done a quick summary of how we got here and the problems with Washington, well, why should the Wizards trade Bradley Beal? Well, first off, ask yourself this. Are the Wizards going to win a championship with Bradley Beal? In fact, I'll give you some time. Just think for yourself. I'll give you some time, alright? Don't worry. Starting now. If you selected no, you got the question correct. Now, maybe that take just ages terribly and someone was screen recording it and is just going to preserve it for I don't know, 2028 when Bradley Beal is a bench player on a title contending team and on the Wizards and they're a title contending team and he wins a title. So yeah, there's that for you. But anyways, just going on to why they should trade Bradley Beal. First off, I don't think they can really win a championship with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, okay, I'll say this. He is a great player, no doubt about that. However, to me, he's more like a really good second option. And they need to really get a number one option, and that's going to be really tough to do. They do have some decent young players in Deni Avdija and Rui Hachimura, but I don't think those guys are going to be blossoming into first options. I don't know if they can really trade for somebody, as that they can't really trade for someone. They really can't trade for someone. How else do I put it? Not only that, but Washington, D.C., it's not, sure, it has a lot of monuments, but it's not exactly a hot free agent destination. The Wizards, I don't know if they can really win a championship with Bradley Beal. How else do I put it? The Wizards, even if they were to turn things around, I don't think they're winning a championship, especially with Scott Brooks, if they do keep him, and with that terrible defense, okay? The Wizards are just not winning a championship with Bradley Beal, okay? I've said that a few times already, but yeah, just to stress it, I don't think they are, okay? Bradley Beal is not good enough to be a first option on a championship team, and I don't think they can really acquire first option. That's going to be hard. If they were to trade Bradley Beal, they could get a lot for him in return, as right now his value is at an all-time high, and they can start a fresh rebuild if they were to trade him. They already have some solid young players, as I said before, in Deni Avdija and Rui Hachimura. And while I do not think they can be first options on a championship level team, I don't think they will be that good, I still think they can be pretty good players. Now, who would be interested in getting Bradley Beal? Well, the thing is, I'm sure there's a lot of teams that would love Bradley Beal, but the Miami Heat could easily be in the running for him. As we know, they have had a bad start to the season, unfortunately, and maybe they think, hey, let's just get Bradley Beal, and they have been in trade talks, as the Miami Heat are a lot of times always are, given that they're a big market and all of that stuff. they could offer up guys like Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, some picks, and some salary fillers. But yeah, the Miami Heat would actually have a pretty decent package, as Tyler Hero, he's a pretty decent young player. So is Kendrick Nunn, and they could get some pretty good, just get some draft picks to help build their future. The 76ers are also an option, as they have been amazing this year, as they are right now best in the Eastern Conference. And Ben Simmons, though, despite all of that amazing success, Ben Simmons has not exactly played that well offensively, and maybe Philadelphia thinks it's time that they move on. They could definitely send Ben Simmons and other players, plus some first round picks, to get Bradley Beal and get like a shot creating guard and just give Joel Embiid as much space and all of that. Now, one problem with that is that where would the playmaking be if they were to trade Ben Simmons and not get a point guard in return? So Philadelphia could definitely make a move, but who knows what happens there. Not only that, but we do have to take into account that maybe they just don't, Daryl Morey just doesn't want to risk it with the chemistry, and it's just like, okay, I don't want to mess up the chemistry. We're already the best in the East. Let's just not mess it up. The Boston Celtics could also be interested. Kemba Walker, as we know, hasn't exactly started off the season well, and maybe if he continues to play like this, maybe they think, yeah, you know what, Kemba, it's time to we're trading you, it's time to get out and pack your bags. And maybe they decide, you know what, let's get Bradley Beal, who's an amazing scorer. And Kemba Walker definitely could be shipped off to Washington if they were to trade for Bradley Beal, along with a ton of first round picks. Now, here's the thing, I will say this about both sides. I mean, first off, Kemba Walker and Russell Westbrook, I don't know about that fit, as both are really just point guards, and yeah, all that stuff. Bradley Beal on Boston, while that would be like pretty good talent wise, and while he is a better player than Kemba Walker, where would the playmaking be? I mean, do you want to start Jeff Teague? And if Marcus Smart gets injured, your only option is to, just start Jeff Teague, and I don't think a lot of Celtics fans want to do that. I mean, if you go on Twitter, every Celtics fan wants to cut Jeff Teague. But anyways, the Boston Celtics definitely could make a run at Bradley Beal, not Jeff Teague. Anyways, another team that could definitely be in the running might be New Orleans, as Lonzo Ball, I mean, he hasn't been playing well, and neither has New Orleans. And maybe they think, you know what, let's get Bradley Beal. He's a good scorer, and let's surround him with shooters. I mean, I don't know why they have Steven Adams next to Zion Williamson. No offense to Steven Adams, he just can't shoot, that's all. Anyways, the final team that I do think could definitely make a run at him is Dallas. Now, they have struggled, and I did do a video on the Mavericks, so go ahead and check that out. There should be a card coming up, well, just to, link you to that video soon, so go ahead and check that out if you want to. And they could definitely use a ball handler next to Luka Doncic, and Bradley Beal would also just add star power, and they need that in the Western Conference, and Bradley Beal would just be an amazing player for them. One trade I came up with is Miami getting Bradley Beal and Moritz Wagner, and Washington getting Andre Iguodala, Tyler Hero, Kelly Olynyk, Kendrick Nunn, and 2 first-round picks. Obviously, this would give DC some good young talent and some picks to rebuild their team, plus Kelly Olynyk and Andre Iguodala. Why not just keep them around? Because, I mean, maybe they choose let them go sometime later, but this is not a bad, I wouldn't say this is a terrible trade. Maybe you add a little more or you add a little less. I think this is like a good base, I guess you could say. But anyways, with that being said, that will wrap up today's video. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that like button, as it really helps out the channel. Subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy this type of content so you do not miss out, and so we can reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Once we hit 1K, I will react my first 2 videos ever as a special. So if you guys want to see that and enjoy the videos on here, make sure to subscribe. But with that being said, I'm out, you guys.